come back. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I got something new that I want to do. I am tired of having two routers and no router table. So today, we're going to build a router. You can obviously buy these router tables at any of your big box stores, at Rockler, at Woodcraft, all these woodworking stores, they have pre-made router tables. I was at one of these high-end woodworking stores the other day, and the guy came up because I was, buying the lift and wanting to buy some T-track. He's like, well, why don't you just buy that cabinet right there? It's already built. I'm like, but I'm not going to learn anything just buying one. And look at all this wasted space underneath, because all it is just 4 metal legs, a couple of brace bars. It does have a nice dust collecting box that the router sits in. It's got a nice flat metal table top. There's a lot of perks to just buying one. But where I am a amateur, professional, somewhere in between woodworker, I need projects to practice on, really. I mean, that's realistically where I'm at in life. So that's my goal with this, is I want a nice piece of shop furniture that I can practice on. Let's take this butcher block countertop and some pieces and parts, and let's magically turn it into a cabinet. That's a router table. It's so heavy. So what would we need in a router top? What makes it so special? Well, you need a fence. Ta-da! You could buy these prefabbed, or you could make one. Depends on time. I cheated and decided to buy this one. I would like the ability to turn everything on and off from the front. So we have a little switch. It'll probably go somewhere there-ish, maybe. We'll see. This is the heart, the soul, correction. This is what holds the heart and the soul of the router table. This is what we're building around. I ended up buying the Incra lift for 2 reasons. One, it was on sale, so it was the same price as Rockler's greatest, most powerful, wonderful lift there is. I've heard great and wonderful things about this. The one thing that I do like about it is if you buy the Rockler lift table, depending on what size router you have, there's not a lot of adjustment here in diameter. So if you have a really big router, it might work just fine. If you have a smaller router, you're going to have to buy these different inserts. And they had 2 of them for sale, and they're only like 15 bucks a piece. But if you're at the store buying one and you don't know which one you need, you got to spend 30 bucks just so you have 2 options to see which one it is. This is really kind of cool. So the Incra lifts. This little chart tells you which router you have. If you have the big boy Porter cable, you use hole A, which is actually on this black plate, and you use hole 1 on, let's call this the gold bracket. So you unscrew this screw and you slide it through hole A1, and that's your biggest diameter. So this looks very flexible. The top, it has a lock, it has your lift, just like pretty much every router lift out there. So there's that. And it comes with not 1, not 2, not 3, but 5 rings. So those were the selling points to me. It was on sale, so it was within $5 of Rockler's greatest, best lift table they have. It's supposedly the better of the lift tables out there. I have no idea. If you do, leave a comment, tell me. So I got my pieces and parts. Now what do? Well, I feel like the next step is let's lay this out on this table, because the cabinetry is all going to be built in relation to this. So whatever this is, we'll build the cabinet to accommodate this. So for starters, I want to put this guy pretty much smack dab in the middle. And I'm just going to turn him upside down so I can measure and lay things out and figure out where I want this to go. And I'm kind of leaning towards the idea of having it, instead of having him directly in the center, we'll offset it, not to the back, but about a third of the way. What am I going to be doing back here? I'd rather have more work surface on the front than I need in the back, because the back's just going to be behind my fence. So why have it slammed to the dead center or up front? It makes more sense to me to put it either dead center if that's where you want it, or a little ways towards the back. So I guess let's start building the cabinet carcass. Yeah, sounds good to me, right? So now it's time to lay things out, and I don't have the best setup, so I made my own track saw. So now it's time to cut the sides of your cabinetry, and I make the cut. Simple, easy. Any woodworker can do this. Oh, and there goes the cutoff. Bye-bye, not needed piece. I might have just not filmed cutting this back piece. That's going to be incredibly sad. About where I think I need it. I'm going to set these boards up here to see, did I account for enough? Did I do this right? Okay, and then that piece flips up 90 degrees to me to make the carcass, and I think we're on the right track. Wow, I'm making something. And the house cards all fall down. And real world workers would use dados and grooves and clamps and glue. I'm using pocket holes. Faster, simpler, easier, arguably just as strong. But, you know, when I have a full shop, I'd like to get more into dados. But this needs to be done relatively quick. And why not? It's easy. Let's just go with the pocket holes because they're easy and still strong. And the screw goes in the hole. And I'm also using these pocket holes on the inside of the cabinet carcass or the bottom side. So the only way you're ever going to see this is if you pull all the drawers out or if you flip this table upside down. These are things that I'm not going to do on a regular basis. And if somebody is critiquing my work that well or that much, I'm just going to kick them out of the shop because who cares what the underside of a cabinet looks like. So now the cabinet is upside down and I'm using the two center pieces that's going to hold the router dust box. They're the exact same size and I'm using them as spacers and I have them on the side. There's that. So now that that centerpiece was attached, I'm starting to cut out for the actual heart and soul of the router table, the router lift. I'm so excited to get this thing in. It's a pain in the butt to cut all this out, but I laid it upside down. I traced out where it needed to go. And I use straight edges to get my outside cuts. The inside cuts look like a drunken sailor made them because they're going to be covered up by the router lift, so no one will ever see them. But I probably could have been a little bit more accurate on that side. I was very accurate on the exterior of the router. I should have probably bought a template. They're only like 20 bucks, but I'm cheap. I didn't do it. So now I have a hole in my table for the router to fit into.
You need to clean up that mess.
Yes, Bree, you're right. I do need to clean up that mess. And I did. And now I get a test fit it, and it fits.
Hey, that's mine. No!
I love the shop help.
Why?
I decided I'd like to be able to push this thing around a little easier, so I went ahead and flipped it upside down and put the casters on. So I purchased probably the worst switch possible. It's not designed to do what I'm wanting it to do. So I actually took the whole switch apart and I'm going to recess it in this thick piece of walnut. I have a lot of rough sawn walnut, so I had a lot of stuff that's really thick. So I was able to plane this down, make it pretty, traced out how this switch is supposed to be, and routed it down to where I have a very thin layer of material to cover up the Craig switch casing.
but still allow the actual toggle switch itself to recess and fit through. So that way I can actually still turn it on and off, but still hide this whole switch box. If this switch ever needs to be replaced, I'm probably in trouble because I don't know if I'm going to be able to actually pull this thing apart and replace it without severely damaging a lot of the wood. But, you know, oh well. Hopefully this switch will never die and it'll work for the next 50 years flawlessly. That's my goal.
So this safety switch turned out to be a big pain in the butt, and I didn't film it all. So what I did was, you saw that I routed it out. The problem is I was only having 1/8 of an inch of material here and right around 1/8 of an inch material here. Incredibly easy to break. I broke it, I glued it, I clamped it shut overnight. It survived. I think it's pretty, but for this switch, wow, that's a lot of work for a safety switch. So if you're gonna do this, I don't know, your call. I've opted to go with these 90-degree metal brackets. The reason I'm doing this is I want this tabletop to essentially be the option of a sacrificial top. If in 5-10 years this top gets beat up, looks like crap, whatever, pop everything out and just start unscrewing and be able to put a new top on.
So I'm just going to set this up here, going to grab a couple clamps, clamp it to my face trim, and basically just adjust it, push it left and right, get it lined up with my marks, and now just put screws in it, because with these L brackets, it makes it really fast to just attach it. And because I want this to be fancy, and I actually just have the lumber lying around and just need to be milled up, we're going to trim, or I guess we're going to edge this whole thing in walnut. So I figured that'll give it a nice pretty look. That's all I'm doing. I'm just going to shoot some nails in it, and it's going to be glued up, and we're going to go all the way around the tabletop. And now I'm grabbing some longer clamps so I can actually clamp these longer boards in place. So working by myself, it makes it very difficult to hold these longer boards. So again, just glue, clamp, nail. That's pretty much all there is to it. But I think that's going to give it a nicer look. I mean, look how pretty that thing is. That's a pretty tabletop. And I'm long away from being ready to actually finish it, but I can't wait. So we're going to poly the top of this because why not? I want to, and I want to see how pretty it is. And I think that's a pretty tabletop. I think that's going to look nice. Put that little guy in. Oh yeah, that's going to look nice. So the next step that I'm thinking about doing is we're going to figure out where this tree track needs to lay. So I put my feather board on, I maxed it out, and I'm going to square it up to the table. And then we'll put, I guess, a straight edge on and router it. Maybe. I hope that'll work. Realistically, I should probably turn this thing upside down and run it through the table saw with a dado blade. But it's already attached to my cabinet, so that was kind of foolish of me. But, oh well, live you learn. Let's figure it out. See how it works. And I've already marked out where the tree track was going to go. So I shifted the tree track over, and I'm using it as my straight edge. I don't know. Kind of works, maybe. And for my second pass, I did have to move the T-track over. T-track, i.e. my straight edge. So I can get a second cut on this to get it the proper width to accept the T-track. So here I am making more of that sweet, sweet sawdust. So fun. And I am also doing this in a couple of heights. So I'm cutting kind of shallow, and then I'll adjust the router again and take a deeper pass. So with my dado routed out, you can see it in the bottom of the screen there for my T-track. Now I'm working on 2 smaller T-track sections on the backside. This is where my fence is going to attach. So I'm doing the same premise, but I set up 2 straight edge boards on each side. So that gives me a guide, so I can't cut any wider than I need to. Now the trick, I guess the skill set, is I don't want to cut too far in towards the bottom of the screen because that's where my T-track stops. So I'm testing my fit. It fits good, but not deep enough. So readjust the router bit, and we making the second pass. Now we're going a little bit deeper. This should be my final pass. I just got to clean everything up and make some more of that sweet, sweet man glitter, also known as sawdust. Really good for your lungs. Makes it hard to breathe. Lots of coughing. Suggest wearing a dust mask. But should be it. Now we'll use this chisel, and any spots where I was afraid of tear out there at the edges, I didn't get too close to the edge with the router because you can catch grains of wood and bad things can happen near edges. On the other end, closest to the camera, with the round router bit, it's really hard to make 90-degree corners with a round over bit. So, hence the chisel. Just square those up, very easy, not difficult at all. Any beaver can be able to do it. I mean, they're bred for it, but in lieu of a beaver, just grab a hammer and a chisel. And here I am testing for fit. Looks good. So to hold the fence properly, you actually need 2 T-tracks, not 1. You need a T-track on each side of your router lift. So here I am measuring things out, laying things out again, and I'm going to router it out just as you saw before. But instead of showing it to you again, you could just rewind and watch me do it from the first time, because do you really need to see it twice? I don't think so. But, you know, let's move this video along, shall we? Now look at that beautiful tree track resting in that beautiful butcher block and walnut. Isn't it amazing? Aren't you glad you didn't see it twice? So I'm just testing out the Rockler fence, making it fits properly and operates as it should. I probably could have made something just as well as this, but this was just kind of something that I decided it'd be clean and faster and easier. So next we need to just get this other T-track in. Here we're going to go ahead and punch this hole through so that we can actually stick the power cord through for the switch. And we're going to use one of these fancy little desk plastic pieces that I don't know what you actually call it, but you know, they're for desks and cables and make it pretty. So now is what I've been waiting for, the door. This is going to become realistically my fancy centerpiece of the project. Now, my push stick sucks. I really probably should make one that's actually a proper one, but you know, scrap wood works too, because realistically your push sticks are going to get beat up anyways. So I'm milling up the boards that I need to make this fancy door. So it should be pretty nice if I can get it to work the way I want it to. But to do that, I have to run them through the planer and joiner and make them all pretty and uniform. So that's what we're going to do. And then glue them up. Can't forget to glue them up. So I've only seen a picture of this, don't actually know how to do it, so I'm guessing here. But for what I want to do, I'm taking walnut pieces from limbs, just a dead walnut tree on the property, cut them up really thin, about 3/4 of an inch thick. So now we're just going to lay them out on the boards that we've glued together for the door and make the pattern I think I want. Now that we've drawn out the pattern, I'm going to router out about a 1/2 inch deep so that I can epoxy them into the door. Now, this is something that I'm guessing on. I don't know if I should go much deeper. I don't know if I should go shallower. Can't imagine shallower, but maybe deeper. But I still wanted there to be some wood for the door behind the sticks. Maybe I should have gone 3/4 of the way through the thickness, but, you know, I'm guessing here. This might be a horrible idea. I don't know. But the picture looked pretty, so we're going to try to mimic it. So we just have to router out up to my pencil marks and then complete the puzzle. So to keep them in place, I'm just going to use hot glue. It's temporary, it's strong enough until the epoxy gets in, but if I make a design choice that I don't like, I could easily pop them back out with a chisel. And now with all the big and medium pieces glued in place with hot glue, I'm coming back with the tiny itty bitty pieces and just sticking them in where they fit. And what might look good, I don't know, it looks really weird at this point. I'm hoping this is going to look amazing when it's done, but we'll see. I mean, this is new to me. I don't know. And that's kind of why I want to do it on my shop furniture, is to see, is this something that I want to put in the kids' room, in our kitchen? Is this a design element I want to use going further? It's a lot of labor, but is it worth it? I don't know yet. That's why I'm doing it, because I'm just experimenting. And I encourage you with your shop furniture to don't just use plywood and 2x4s. Do something creative. Try something new. Try different design things. If it fails, who cares? And for the epoxy, We use Stone Coat Epoxy, not partnership with them, not sponsored by anybody that I've mentioned in this video. It's just the product we found first. I like it. I'm comfortable using it. That's really the only reason I'm using Stone Coat Epoxy versus Total Boat or name your other epoxy. Have nothing against the other brands. Stone Coat's what we bought first. So I encapsulated my door on all sides except for the top, obviously, with duct tape. And I'm going to use a syringe so I can control the pour and try to make sure that the epoxy actually goes in the holes I want it to and doesn't just fill this whole thing with epoxy. I also went around it with hot glue to kind of make a hot glue dam around everywhere that I wanted to pour. Again, to just try to control the epoxy. So I got the epoxy where I wanted it with this method, but it was very slow and tedious, and honestly doing a great big slather pour over it's probably not going to be much faster because you're going to have a lot more air bubbles, I would guess. So, but it worked. It just was slow and painfully slow. But, you know, it's epoxy. It is what it is. You just kind of slather it on and it kind of just fills all the little gaps and all the little holes and just kind of goes wherever it wants to go. It looks like a sloppy mess at this point. I'm kind of having my doubts right now. Is this going to turn out okay, or is this just going to be ugly and stupid? I don't know. It's a guess. We'll see. All right, so I've pulled it out of the tape and I've tried a couple of different methods cutting it off. This is what I'm finding works best, is if you can find one of these flush cut saws, it seems to be working better than most. Flush cut saw, then a chisel. They're kind of working. It's slow, painful, not fun, and still another mess. This is a nightmare. It's working. It's getting me what I want, I think, but wow, does this method suck. I don't know. Is this worth repeating? It's still not pretty. I don't know. I'm losing faith in this idea pretty quickly. We'll just kind of keep bearing with it, I guess. So I'm terrified to run it through the planer for fear of it just shattering and ripping these small pieces out. But honestly, let me know in the comments. If you can think of a better way to accomplish this task, let me know, because this isn't fun. It sucks, honestly. This is pretty miserable. So let me know if you got a better idea. The flush cut saw kind of humped it up a little bit. It's higher in the center, so it's not truly flush. So now becomes the arduous task of sanding, every woodworker's favorite part. So this door, the sanding alone took me about 3 hours. But I think I like it. Maybe. Starting to look pretty. So with the router door completed, it's time to build drawers. So I banged out these 5 drawers pretty quickly. Nothing too fancy, just your normal drawers. But the door, that was an insane amount of work. But let me know in the comments what you think. I think I like it. I think it looks good. So let's finish assembling these drawers, putting them in place, and let's finish this job up. Wow, I made some mistakes with these drawers. Some of them are like really snug, and then this one right here, it's not square. I don't know why. So you can see it right there, bottom left hand drawer. There's a weird gap on the right hand side of it. So it's done, kind of. You all let me know what you think. I'm torn. These 2 spaces down here, I don't know what to do with those 2 spaces at the bottom. So please leave a comment and tell me what your suggestions are, whether it should be drawers or just one big cabinet door for each side, or 2 cabinet doors for each side, or do I just put a shelf in there and just call it good? Or do I just leave it alone, because I kind of think that might be the answer too. Or am I just being lazy? I don't know. I honestly don't know if this is me just saying, good enough, because I'm being lazy, or if it's good enough because that's the right choice. I don't know. This is the direction I want the shop to go. Over the next 2 years, I would like to make some very customized workbench tables that are very functional, that have a lot of functionality, and to where they're all pushed up against this one concrete wall, which will probably be an insulated wall someday. I want it to all just height-wise match perfectly, and I want them all to look nice. This realistically is project number one. The other reason why I suggest don't just use your standard 2x4s and plywood that you buy at any box store to make shop furniture or garage furniture is use this as, it is a little bit of an expense because this costs a lot more than just plywood and 2x4s, but I'm investing this in the nicety of my space, along with the fact of I'm investing in myself and the experience. I'm not new to woodworking, but I'm not the wood whisperer. I'm not any of these big, huge channels out there. I'm just not to that level yet. I hope that you will watch me over the next few years grow to be that level in knowledge and experience, but I want to learn from them and do my own thing. So that's kind of where I'm at. I want to make nice furniture and I want to make mistakes, and oh my, there are mistakes in this project. Mistakes that I feel like I learned from, things where it's like, okay, I should have done it this way instead, or this is why cabinet makers do it this way and the way I did it is dumb. If you spot those mistakes, leave them in the comment. Don't be mean, just, point them out tactfully, because the internet, it's a loving place. We're all very tactful on the internet, right? Yeah. And yes, if you can tell by my hair length and facial hair, yes, this was not a weekend build. This probably should be a 2-weekend build. If you're gonna do this by yourself, expect 2 to 3 long days in your garage or shop building it. For me, life got in the way, horses, kids, and it's really hard to say when your well is spewing water out your gravel drive and you have no idea where the water's coming from. It's really hard to devote a day or two to shop work when that's what you see when you're driving up to the shop. So, things like that killed a couple days too. Fixing the plumbing in the well and water lines that are buried that turned into be a nightmare. Don't enjoy being a plumber. But yeah, I'm really happy how this door came along. I'm moderately acceptable, happy with how my drawers turned out. I feel like as a woodworker, I need to practice drawers. I mean, there's hundreds of YouTubes that say simplest drawers, easy drawers. I don't know, maybe that's a deficiency in my knowledge, but man, for some reason, drawers kicked my butt, and that's partly why I wanted to do this project, to get better at drawers and making drawers. I'm Ben in the wood shop, and I think it's time for us all to get back to work and go build something. Catch you next time. Bonus points if anybody can tell me what truck this is that showed up in the video.